welcome to Calling the Audible Division 4. I am your host, Jim Coletheris. With me, finally, Alex Holwack. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Jim. Had a little touch of the black lung last week, but it wasn't enough to fell me for long, and I'm back in my seat.
You're back here. We're back in the Sportiera cage. We're joined by Eagle at Master Control. If you're listening to the show and want to contribute, you can tweet us at EagleFPF because he's the one most likely to read it and read it out loud. And if it's Division 4 related, we'll probably talk about it.
And he's probably the only one who can read on this panel as well, so send your tweets to GM.
I've seen GM's emails. It's only me.
So I guess now that you're back and we're in the same season form of chirping, we'll get right down into it. So Blue Chips, Division 4B, they lose an interesting one to Les Branleurs 31-12. What's your take on this game?
Definitely a surprising final result.
Did you expect it to be anywhere close to this?
Well, obviously, Blue Chips were on a roll going into this game. They have been for the most part of the season. However, there was one statistic that I failed to notice before the game began. It's that the Bleus Branleurs, we're going to call them LBB from now on.
You know me.
They're 3-0 with Ming Ton Tat in the lineup this season, with their defense allowing 14 points per game in those 3 games, as opposed to 24 in their other 5 games of the year. So obviously, he's a key difference maker for them.
Yeah, and we've known his influence on the sort of Peas-led teams as well. Even aside from Les Bleus Branleurs, Minton Tat has been just solid. He plays like a player, like a much taller player. He's very defensively aware.
And obviously there's something to bring together the cohesiveness of this unit. So, we failed to see that before the game, and they came up with a huge win. Big upset.
Neither quarterback could really fall into rhythm. 4 INTs on both sides, low completion percentage, and a player on each team had an interception hat trick. So this has just been a really, really strange game. Do you think that Blue Chips should be worried about this game? Worried about a potential playoff rematch?
Well, to just briefly touch upon what you mentioned, 2 hat tricks, INTs, is kind of a strange phenomenon in FPF, right? We don't get to witness that every week. So let's give a little credit where it's due. Alexander Fung with 3 INTs and the game of his career for LBB. He obviously figured something out about Jordan Mitchell early on, and he took advantage of that throughout the game. Jordan Mitchell has certain tendencies as a quarterback. He likes to scramble, he likes to bounce out, and when he does, he has a couple of areas on the field that he puts the ball to. So maybe Alexander Fung saw that in this case.
Playing the zone in between the zone, just
exactly. Maybe he kind of baited a bit and jumped in at the last second. But still, 3 INTs, you got to tip your hat. And then Sanders Armand, our very own listener who tweets in occasionally, Sanders had the game of his career as well with 3 INTs also. So I think in that case, Sanders just kind of put the team on his back at that moment and just said, hey boys, follow my lead. I'm going to keep us in it. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Still a very good performance.
It's the game of their life for some people, but for 3 INTs, that's more than most DBs put up in a season.
Definitely.
So definitely worth noting. But back to the question, do Blue Chips need to be worried considering this upset and the potential for a playoff rematch?
Yeah, they should certainly be worried because there's a realistic possibility right now that they do get this rematch early in the playoffs, right? LBB has clearly handled them proper in this game, and they have to have some kind of edge on Blue Chip to have such a big advantage that others up until now have failed to recognize. So I think Blue Chips definitely don't want to see LBB again in the playoffs, but interestingly enough, there's a good chance that this might develop, so we'll see what happens.
Next on the docket, Mean Machine 38 over Falcons 32. It's been sort of up and down for the Falcons at this point. Mean Machine with a huge comeback in the second half. They've turned things around. What can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yep. So they made the necessary adjustments to match Pat Lefebvre's offense at halftime. There was a huge divide between the first and second half score. The strategy at the half, and then they nearly shut them out in the second half entirely. So usually it's the savvy veteran team, which we would assume to be the Falcons, who go into the half and make those adjustments. But in this case, oddly enough, it was the opposite team. It was the younger team that showed that maturity and made those changes, and they came up with the win because of it.
So in that vein, are Mean Machine an emerging threat, or have they just gotten lucky with a couple wins at this point?
Look, they have an offense that flourishes against softer, quote-unquote, defenses.
Struggling teams.
Not always struggling teams, but some teams that have allowed a lot of points.
Okay.
Some teams win by allowing a lot of points, and they have good records. But those are the teams that they've thrived against. But they've had collapses at times offensively against the elite contenders, the big dogs of the division. So their defense has been consistently exploitable all year. They've allowed 30 plus in either all of their games or next to all of their games. So not necessarily an emerging threat. Not enough consistency to call them that, in my opinion. But definitely a good show this week. And there's some good potential there for future seasons.
So how do the Falcons right the ship? They recently beat a struggling Expendables team, but before that, they haven't had a win since week 2. How do they right the ship?
Yeah, so, it's tough for them because they've been in most of these games that they've lost. They've been on excuse me, they've lost several of their last games, but they've been very tight in them. They have a gunslinging offense that's going to challenge every week, but like Mean Machine that we just spoke of, their defense is not very formidable at all. They haven't gotten many stops, especially big stops in big games, which you need to win when it's tight. So it's going to be very tough for them ahead with two good defensive teams on deck, one of them being A Squad, second one being Blue Chips, I believe. I don't know if they can right the ship at this point. Very good season. They're just going to have to keep doing what they do.
From one bird to another, aviary training.
Oh, thank you, Eagle. Thank you.
Am I missing out on an inside joke?
Eagle, Falcons, they're both birds.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
I'm clever.
Yeah.
How can they right the ship? Yeah, very good. Aviary training, exactly. Worth a shot.
Yeah, so in the last game on the docket for 4B, Rancerz putting up 40 against Green Lantern Corps, who struggle at 26. Alexis Gaumont filled in on Green Lantern Corps for the second time. His first time filling in, he managed to get Green Lantern Corps their only win against the Expendables, but he fell just a little bit short here. What are your thoughts on this game and on Green Lantern Corps?
So the thing, to your point, is that Alexis Gaumont, last time he stepped in, it was against a struggling Expendables team in Week 4, who haven't adapted to the caliber of this division throughout the course of the season. Still kudos for them for showing up every week and competing. But this time around, they faced an emerging Rancerz team who beat them soundly. Okay, so there's still flaws to this team. It doesn't matter if Alexis Gaumont steps in; he's still a better option for them than their other
Gerson.
Than Gerson at this point with the surrounding cast, because then he can step into the receiver role. But there's just like a major lack of depth on this team, and at this point of the season, it's still a positive development that they're in the game versus Rancerz, but I don't think it's going to change much going out for their outlook.
At this moment, Rancerz, they're 3-4-1. They have a plus-minus of plus 15, despite that sort of losing record. How dangerous are they? What does this signify to you?
Yeah, so this team is a pretty dangerous team right now, and I'll tell you why. Their QB, Jeremy Cloutier, is averaging under 1 INT per game, which is always good. It shows that it's a mark of efficiency for a quarterback, yet he's still producing the TD numbers, which give them a chance to win each week. Their defense has 13 interceptions and 3 defensive touchdowns on the season, which is part of, like, I'd say it's not the best of the league, but it's right underneath. It's very formidable indeed. They've been close within 1 score in all of their losses this year, and they've had one of the most difficult schedules as well in the division. So 2 tough games left against Obamacare and Gators, but also 2 games where they can distinguish themselves a bit and use that as a stepping stone to head into the playoffs. So this is definitely a very dangerous team on the cusp of making a late season run.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, just having a defense like that, Louis-Christophe Lafontaine, Marc-André Paradis, Jeremy Cloutier as well, who you've mentioned. There's no shortage of ballers on this team. So in that case, you talked about their upcoming games. What do you think is more likely at this point? So Rancerz falling out of the playoffs, so with those games against the Gators and Obamacare, or Green Lantern Corps getting a second win, having playing Jagerbomb, Vikings, and Sandlot Saints.
So if Rancerz can get one of those wins, they'll have a very good chance of getting in and being a first-round seed that nobody wants to see. I think that, definitely the Gators have shown some vulnerability, although they have been playing a little bit better lately. So there's very good chances of Rancerz getting in, but you got to give me the favorite odds of of GLC beating the Vikings in Week 10. I mean, the Vikings are have 0 victories so far this season, and they look to be struggling at this point. If you got to give me one that's more favorite to happen, I'll take that.
And I think that game for both teams will mean a lot because it'll be the only sort of shining light on otherwise write-off season.
Hey, the tough seasons happen. Right? My first season in the league, we had about 2 wins, I think, and when you go up against those teams who are also struggling, you get a little smile on your face.
Ballhawks,
exactly.
Winter 2011.
2010.
2010 Division 3?
Division 3, yeah, very ambitious.
Were you quarterback or was it Jeff Moscato quarterback?
No, I was indeed quarterback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if you want to erase it from my career statistics, I don't mind.
I will definitely remember that team because Jeff left the lockdown team to play with you guys. So I was like, what of a vendetta against you?
Yeah,
I'm happy you did poorly.
Too.
I did very poorly.
Eagles first season, he went 0-10.
No, 1-9.
1-9.
We beat Les Affleux.
Eagles gonna go 1-9 this week. Congrats on the
first
win.
Season, I went 1-9 as well. Our only win was by 1 point. We lost the game by 50 points.
Yeah.
Actually, we lost 2 games by 50 points.
So you guys, everybody takes their lumps, and it's just a matter of time before the ship's gonna turn for you. But just enjoy those games against teams that are beatable at that point. That's the fun of the season that's left.
So last week in your absence, Simon and I, we discussed sort of on the bubble playoff teams. I figured we'd do the opposite at this point. Look at the top tier teams in each conference, the top 4.
If you're listening to this and you don't have the visuals, you should probably check out our YouTube stream because we actually have the playoff standings on the screen right now. So they can see basically where their team is, both for Conference A and Conference B.
Thank you, Alex.
So
it is in front of you. You can look at it. We're going to look at the top 4 teams in each conference. I just want to get your take on them quickly. Who looks like contenders, who looks like pretenders, and why. So the top 4 right now for Conference A are the U, A Squad, Blue Chips, and Jagerbomb. These teams here all look strong. There's a reason they're at the top of their game right now and at the top of Conference A. What stands out to you at this moment?
Okay, so if we'll break them down one by one, I guess, just quickly, the first team was the U, right? So, the thing about the U is that their quarterback has 1 INT on the season, and they're also a team that, correct me if I'm wrong, has never lost a playoff game. So they are indeed, is that a correct statistic?
That makes sense because they've played 1 season and they're a championship
they're champions,
team, so.
Right?
No, they played more than 1 season.
Do they have 2 championships though?
I believe they do.
That's what but we'll check that out. Regardless, the U is the cream of the crop in Division 4B in their conference right now. I think they have a clear path to the finals. I would be more than comfortable to say that on air. If their quarterback is present and if their core roster is present, there doesn't seem to be a team that can really get in their way if they play their game from here on out. So they're
definitely contenders in your mind.
Cream of the crop.
Okay.
Winter 15, Winter 16, and now Winter 17.
Okay.
That's it.
A Squad, Blue Chips, Jagerbomb. Who here looks like a pretender in this case at this moment?
So we'll go with if you know what, I do want to say one thing is that out of those teams, the other team that looks legit to me is Blue Chips. They just lost this week, yes. Are they perfect? No, but they play a brand of football which is so exciting, so electric, and so difficult to actually stop effectively, consistently. So I think the Blue Chips, if there's one team that can upset the U before the finals of 4B, it would be Blue Chips.
Okay.
A Squad is a great defensive team. I wonder how their offense is going to hold its own versus the top defenses in the clutch. Come the heat of the playoff time. And the Jagerbomb, look, experienced team,
former championship team.
Championship team. Simon Duchesne is one of the beasts of this division, like in terms of talent, in terms of intelligence, and in terms of athleticism. If you've seen this guy, he gallops like a horse in the backfield.
He does, and you look at him and you wouldn't think that would be the case.
Not on the sideline, and
all
then
of a sudden he's gone for 12, 15 yards.
The Jagerbomb, they all wear like these tight jerseys, so like everybody's flexing. All of a sudden, you're like, then you see like the true force of Jagerbomb. Yet, I've seen them disappear at times in games this year. Against Blue Chips, for example, they got completely shut out against a bigger, more athletic, more smothering defense, and their offense seems a little bit handicapped towards short passes. So teams that might try to exploit them and force them to hit the deep ball, I'm sure they won't be scared to take those chances, but they've shown a proclivity to lose those games so far. So I think the Jägerbomb aren't quite in that type.
They're primed to detonate early.
Exactly. They're a little bit matchup based, I think, is what we're trying to say. And with the wrong matchup, it could be lights out early on in the playoffs for them.
Okay. And in Conference B, at the top of Conference B right now, we've got the Alpha T's, Get Off My D, Team Ethnic, and Sphinx. How do these teams stand out to you?
Yeah, so the Alpha T's, they're the elite of Division 4B. They're the aristocracy of this division. They've shown they can win with QB inconsistencies. They've had flipped back and forth a bit throughout the year. They seem destined for a finals encounter with the U. And speaking of which, we get a teaser of that potential finals preview this week. So certainly a good game to look forward to.
Yeah, we'll touch upon that. You also mentioned the inconsistencies at quarterback. So Jesse Dupuis and Jean Lucier alternating back and forth. Still managing to get wins out of it in this case. So not necessarily cause for concern in your eyes.
No, not cause for. Well, yeah, not cause for concern in my eyes. Definitely, you want your main guy there, Jesse Dupuis, in the playoffs, and he has been there the last 2 weeks. So maybe they've gotten that sorted out a bit. But Jean Lucier has shown to be more than a capable backup if called upon. So that's why I do call them the elite of 4B. And that would be this. What can we ask more than a matchup this week between Alpha T's and the U? But let's touch upon Get Off My D, because it's another good team in this division. I think that they're the understudies in this Conference B after Alpha T's.
Especially considering the sort of QB ups and downs that they've had.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll just recap. Jeff Rosenblatt, their longtime quarterback, had a season-ending injury. In stepped JM2K John Moody, who is having a phenomenal season, and he's starting to get that chemistry with these boys right now, and they're heating up. They've looked rejuvenated with JM2K at the helm. Their tie against STL Cougars is a bit concerning to me because they couldn't really stop them. STL Cougars is a fine team, but I don't consider STL to be in that top tier category of the division, and they tied Get Off My D.
So cause for concern.
Not necessarily cause for concern, but a little slight against them, and that bumps them behind Alpha T's. But they have the top 6 to compete with anyone in this division, so that's why they're top heavy team, very, very, very dangerous.
So who do you see as pretenders here between Team Ethnic or Sphinx?
Yeah, you know what? Team Ethnic, you got to give them a lot of credit. They've had a phenomenal season, right? They're 5-2. Their only losses have come against Get Off My D and Alpha T's. So not much to pick at there. Very balanced squad. So I'm not going to call them pretenders. I think the Sphinx have had kind of an odd season. They lost against Get Off My D when Jad Aridi was quarterback for 1 week, which should not have happened, right? Jad's one of the premier players in the league and a Hall of Fame candidate, but certainly not a quarterback. And especially if you want to be considered one of the big teams, you can't lose to a team that has a fourth string quarterback, if you will. So yeah, I think they've had kind of a bit. So I'd call the Sphinx, although they have the championship pedigree, I'd call them the pretenders in this group right now.
So we're going to do the same thing as we go on in the show with Division 4A, but in the meantime, we'll go through our picks beforehand. So give me a little bit of your predictions. You touched upon it just a little bit earlier, but the premier game of the division right now, the U against the Alpha T's. Yeah,
so this is the odds-on favorite for a finals preview. I think the U gained the big upset this week, and I think that'll be good for Alpha T's down the line. They'll get a little bit of a taste for their top opponent. What do you think?
I like the Alpha T's in this case right now. I like Marc-Antoine Vallée Rush against the U. I think that the defense is going to be enough to hold up, and I really like the Alpha T's for this one.
Well, we'd bet a pitcher of beer on it, but I'm already down to you 2-0, so I don't think that my accountant would allow me to continue betting against you at this point, so we'll leave it at that. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting game.
Gators against Team Ethnic. What do you think?
Yeah, so the Gators still clawing away here, coming off a big win versus Mud Dogs. I think they're going to continue to scrape and continue to claw and earn their way into the playoffs and get the big win in this one.
Okay, Vissieux against the Expendables.
So Vissieux, with their third win of the season, Tyson Otis Copeland is going to have himself a day and add to his 5 INTs on the year.
Small Giants against the Sandlot Saints.
This is a good game. Small Giants just came off of a big win this week against. Correct. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mess this up. I think it might have been Obamacare, but that may be mistaken. But Small Giants did have a big win. I'm gonna take them to continue this momentum, late season push, if you will, from a team that we expected a lot of early on. Just didn't develop when we did. But I think now they're starting to make their corrections.
Matchup to watch in this game as well is going to be both candidates for two-way player of the year at this point behind Darren McDessian for Small Giants and Lenny Dion for Saint Saint. So it's going to be interesting to see who leads their team to more success in this one and might make a case for themselves for that award. Wow. Blue Chips against the Falcons.
Yeah, Blue Chips are gonna, maybe they were complacent this week. Who knows? They took a beating against LBB. They're gonna bounce back this week, and they're gonna beat the Falcons, who are just gonna continue to struggle, in my opinion.
Speaking of LBB going up against Mean Machine, two teams who last week got the upset win, and now will be facing each other.
Both teams would kind of desperately need this win. I'm gonna take LBB to continue their momentum, especially if Ming Tong Tat is in the lineup, which they're 3-0 with him there.
Obamacare against the Rancerz. This is going to be a solid game, especially on the defensive side.
It is going to be a solid game because one team that we didn't mention, and I know that if they're listening, they're going to be mad about it, in the top tier teams, is Obamacare. They want to be there, and they have the build to be there. They've just lost 3 games this year against all of the top teams that we've named, so clearly they're not in the top tier if they lose against the top tier. This week, Rancerz have been showing a lot of improvement in their play of late, and they desperately need the win. I think I'm going to take the Rancerz in this one.
Okay. Jays against the Sphinx, two teams who have sort of lacked an identity this year.
Yeah, they have, both of them. I do think the Sphinx are going to pull it out because they are in more of a playoff position. They have more to lose at this point, so they're gonna protect their playoff spot and take the win.
Vikings against the Game Changers. Do Vikings have hope at this point?
Not this week against Game Changers.
It's going to be week 10 then.
It's going to be week 10 against GLC. That's going to be the bowl for them.
Mud Dogs against Get Off My D.
Wow, that's a neat game, isn't it? I'm going to take Get Off My D. I've seen Mud Dogs show a little bit of vulnerability against upper tiered opponents this season. What do you think about this one, quickly?
The Mud Dogs are a solid team, but I do like JM2K, as you mentioned, as well. So I know the reason.
And his talented ensemble of cast, the Aridi brothers,
give me GOMD in J. Cole fashion. Jaegerbomb against Green Lantern Corps.
Jaegerbomb.
The Alpha T's against the Expendables.
Ouch. The Alpha T's.
And to wrap it up, A Squad against STL Cougars. I think this is a true test for A Squad as to whether or not they belong in that upper tier.
Certainly right. And a true test for STL Cougars as well, who definitely wanted to find themselves. Give me STL Cougars on the upset because I am so impressed with the grittiness of this team lately.
Okay. So with that in mind, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back afterwards with Division 4A. Welcome back to the two of you who are watching and listening to us instead of watching the Habs game.
Tweet in, one of you. Tweet in. Yeah, tell us who you are.
Or even type into the live chat on YouTube. We will respond if you'd like to talk about anything Division 4B or 4A related.
Send us a
or
show.
Why you're not watching the Habs game.
Who are you?
I am GM Kalethris. Next to me is Alex Holwack, and the person behind the microphone is the Wizard of Oz himself, Alex Aquila.
And we are also not watching the Habs game.
We are also not watching the Habs game. We all have our independent reasons for it.
But if you want to tweet us the score, please do that.
Cool. Yeah. So we go right back into it. Division 4A, the recap so far. 69ers against Les Maloudes. Very, very interesting game here. 69ers fell just short, 19-26 against Les Maloudes. It's the first time the 69ers have been held to 3 touchdowns all season. Were they just outmatched or what?
The Les Maloudes tend to do that against teams. Even more remarkable is how they saved their best performances for the highest ranked opponents. A true mark of a team that's on the rise and it's going to be a major threat in this playoff season. I think Les Maloudes are for real, and they've demonstrated it once again against 69ers this week. So
with this win, Les Maloudes likely will clinch first place considering the rest of their schedule. How do they keep focus and not sort of falter in this case
so,
in the ways they have before?
They're fortunate in their scheduling because they have Bad Case and Backyard Bullies, which are 2 experienced teams that will exploit any vulnerabilities that you present, so it's going to keep them sharp. And also, they don't want to slip to second because there's still a chance to catch the Tide or top season in the first round or the second round if you slip to second. Yeah. So you got to be really careful. You want to clinch that first place team spot and play against 8 and whoever gets that spot.
Okay. The commission just edged out the Tide. Speaking of the Tide, 31-30. What do we take away from this game between these 2 giants?
So, right off the bat, superficially, it seems like they both need to work on their extra points because both quarterbacks had 5 touchdowns and that game ended 31-30, meaning one
convert was the difference.
Commission won 1-0 in the convert game.
And those of you who write off converts as saying, oh, they don't matter, like, I stress the importance of this every season. I talk about like Division 1 game finals that have been won by converts, but
yeah,
if you only score 1 convert compared to your opponent's 0, this is a problem.
I checked out the Tide out of curiosity, and they're actually pretty good in converts. They usually convert at about 75%, which is very good. Anything above 50 is amazing. So, but just in some reason in this game, they couldn't do it on the extras. Sean Avram looks sharp as a QB this year. He's got a lot of confidence. He's got a lot of swagger. He's getting the ball out quick, and he's making the game simple. So I think that was the difference in this one. Sean Avram right now at the top of his mojo.
Conversely, how did the Tide get out of this death spiral at this point?
So, they showed a knack for edging out these close games early in the year versus top seasons in MVE. It's just a question of confidence, and it's a question of finding that passion each week and coming out and competing. I think the Tide at some level are just trying to coast into the playoffs right now, and they're going to turn it up there. This is a veteran team. Veteran teams sometimes fall into that trap of waiting for the playoffs to start, and I think that's kind of what hit them the last 3 games, and they've lost all 3 of those games. So the Tide will turn it back, but that's it.
And in the last game, past our prime, 38-33 over Aztech Sasquatches.
Sorry.
Craig O'Brien in at quarterback. We finally see the past our prime team that we've been talking about all season. The sort of what if, how would they do? I can only imagine how strong this team would have been if this would have been the case throughout the year.
It's too bad, right? Because Obi finally stepped up this year and showed us the promise of past our prime from prior to the season beginning. With all those weapons on O, they could have been doing this all season. We were robbed from seeing one of the most competitive teams this year. Still great jerseys, though. Maybe best in the league.
The Optimus Prime ones?
The Optimus Prime ones. And, still a great group of guys, but it's a little bit too late for them now. Still.
What do you make of the inconsistencies of the Aztec Sasquatches at this point?
So it's just the plight of a first-time team playing all together with a rookie quarterback who's only...
quote-unquote rookie quarterback.
Well, FPF rookie quarterback, and he's played like a rookie FPF quarterback at many spurts throughout this season. Although he's been bringing it together the last couple of weeks, got to give credit where it's due. They're still trying to figure out what their system is, right? This is a team that's playing without a system right now. They're playing schoolyard football, and when you play schoolyard football, it's tough to find that consistency, that rhythm on a weekly basis, and that's a testament to their style of play.
Okay. So we're gonna make that same transition. Alex will be bringing up the playoff standings, or the potential playoff standings at this point for Division 4A, Conference A, and Conference B. We'll start with Conference A right now. So looking at teams that look like contenders, looking at teams that look like pretenders, Backyard Bullies, Flying Weasels, and Frosty Bronsons. What's your take on this?
Did we say the Still Teamless?
I'm sorry, who?
Still Teamless?
I'm not familiar with them.
Still Teamless, SST. These guys are the cream of the crop in Division 4A. They are having a phenomenal season, 6-0-1 if my memory serves me correct. Lonnie is having my dream season at quarterback. The numbers are just so beautiful each week. I like the way they edged out Backyard Bullies this week, because those are one of the teams that might stop them from making the finals, in my opinion. The only team in the conference that has a chance to do so. Not a convincing win, though, so that leaves some intrigue heading into a possible playoff rematch.
It shows the level of parity among the top teams, at least, and even the record that isn't necessarily indicative.
It shows the level of parity between you and Backyard Bullies, because you guys have basically smoked everyone else that you've played against. But we digress.
So Backyard Bullies were the second team in that lineup.
Definitely more dangerous than their 4-3 record. I was a big proponent of this team prior to the season. I said they were the second best team in conference in Division 4A, right behind your team, who I ranked first. So, I did something right at some point this year.
The loss of Jordan Allard definitely hurting this team.
What happened to Jordan Allard? I'm sorry.
As far as I understand, he's working at the airport and doesn't have the time to commit to playing at this point.
Is he qualified?
I could be
for
wrong,
playoffs?
but that's the rumor that's circulated around.
So that would make a lot of sense of their shocking 3-game losing streak that they're on right now. They need to rediscover what makes them, great ball players, right? Like they've showed a little bit of difficulty, kind of getting that upper gear the last 3 weeks, I find. And I think what's going to need to do is, Rich Humes is one of the premier two-way players in this league, and especially in this division. He needs to go to make this team go from good to great. He needs to not be a 4-touchdown quarterback, but a 5-touchdown quarterback. He needs that extra passing touchdown in each game, and Backyard Bullies will have the record that they should have, which is nearly perfect. So, but this is certainly a team that's got major dark horse upset potential in the playoffs.
Flying Weasels, what's your take at this stage of the season?
So, great defensive team. They win with gritty defensive battles. They put the clamp on Frosty Bronsons and Junkyard Dogs, but then they got lit up by 5-Star and Eskimo Brothers. So, to me, they seem a bit matchup-based, and if they get the right matchup in the playoffs, they can move on and they can make some noise. But if they get the wrong matchup, it might be lights up for them early.
And the last team here, bringing up the caboose of the top tier teams, Frosty Bronsons. What's your take? Are they contenders or pretenders?
Yeah, so they're definitely pretenders. We've shown no consistency at any point throughout the year. We're up and we're down. We're hot and we're cold. We're yes and we're no. Too much Katy Perry quotes.
You can tell that was a Katy Perry quote in progress, because Eagle's ears perked up.
I'm like, I recognize this.
So we're definitely pretenders, but look, we were pretenders who went to the finals in Division D, so we might be pretenders who are laughing our way all the way to the final game, and we're okay with that.
And in Conference B, we've got Les Maloudes, 69ers, the Commission, and Gotham Knights, who have now edged out the Tide for those top four. What's your take on the Conference B?
So Les Maloudes, 7-1, really peaking at the right time right now. They beat all of the division's top teams each week. Anthony Beauchamp-Freza's athleticism is scary impressive, and they keep answering all the tests. So this is the best team in Conference B by far.
69ers.
So 5-2. Underdog team that surprised us for the most part of the season. Their only losses have come versus the Tide and Les Maloudes. High octane, well balanced offense, and they have a major upset potential. But at the same time, they could be upset as well. There's enough flaws within this team, specifically on defense, and the way their O seems to be a little bit gadgety sometimes. Like sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. That they could get knocked off early on, or they could go all the way and challenge Les Maloudes.
Okay. And as far as the Commission and Gotham Knights, what are your takes here? Do we have a presumptive pretender? Do we have contenders of this list as well?
Well, you got to give credit to the Commission. We've already spoke praises about Sean Abrams' play this year. Two other guys on this team that are playing noteworthy. Dominic Benevento is having a fantastic season, and Julian McLaren is having another fantastic season. 2 huge additions to this squad, and it's really rejuvenized them, give them new life.
I think it's important to call out Julian Thompson as well, considering like we're so used to talking about Jordan McLaren and Jelani McLaren that you forget that there's the younger brother who is equally as talented.
He's making a name for himself now.
And that's going to be another premier name that we're going to be used
and
to.
And then there's the the scrappy old Gotham Knights, like practically 500, like we said they would be. They stick around for all 12 rounds each week. They're the most annoying team to play against, and they're the team that no top-ranked team wants to see in the playoffs. So definitely underdog potential there.
Okay, so with that, we move right into our predictions. Big TDs against the 69ers.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this is a big game for the Big TDs. This is a big game
coming off of an important win against Bad Case last week. Against
Bad Case, right? Tom Cesario went 6 touchdowns, 0 INTs, had a very nice game. I do think, though, that 69ers are a bit more polished and poised at this point, and I think that's going to play the difference maker, and 69ers are going to get the win in this one.
Okay. Eskimo Brothers against the Tide. Interesting matchup.
Very interesting matchup, right? The Tide have lost 3 in a row. The Eskimo Brothers actually have a better record now, 4-2-1. I think the Tide, though, they're gonna, what I think is gonna happen is that Brent the Hitman Calendar is gonna, he wanted me to call him that. That's the nickname I gave him, and he likes that one.
I call him Brent the Washing Machine.
Brent the Washing Machine.
He's washed.
Oh, I think he's going to have his boys chomping at the bits this week, and they're going to be well prepared. And I think the Tide are going to be confident, and they're going to come into this one. They're going to get the win that they need.
Golden Flashes against the Zoo.
Yeah, give me the Zoo. I
support that.
My Frosty Bronsons beat Golden Flashes this week. I wasn't there. I was sick. Maybe I should be sick more often. But I think
because it forces James to find other reads.
No, I'm still James's favorite. Okay, and I always will be. But it's still it was a good experience for our team. So I'll take the Zoo in this one. I think there's maybe some difficulties on Golden Flashes right now.
Okay, Backyard Bullies against Past Our Prime.
I hope Obi's back quarterbacking for the rest of the season, because it just makes that team so much fun to watch, and that would be a fantastic game. Actually, in fact, I'll go out on a limb. I'll say if Craig O'Brien is quarterback, I'll take Past Our Prime for the major upset, and if not, I'm going to take Backyard Bullies to get back in rhythm this week.
Is it painful sitting on that fence like that?
Oh, you have no idea.
I bet. 5-star against the Gotham Knights.
Yeah, 5 stars rolling right now, man. We said at the beginning of the year it's only a matter of time before they kind of come into their own, and they are. Like Jordan Moses is back. He's distributing the ball. He's playing error-free football. The defense is chomping at the bits. 5 stars going to take this one.
Dams 25-8 against the Commission.
Good game. Dams have been really stepping it up the last couple of weeks. We kind of wrote them off early, and now they're making us eat a slice of humble pie. Who knows if it'll be too late for them? They're making their late season push. I'm going to take the Commission in this one because I really like. I'm going to say it again for the 3rd time. I really like what Sean Avram is doing at quarterback, and I really like this Commission team. So I'll take them this
on
one.
the subject of late season pushes, Nona Sauce against Top Season. Nona Sauce who started off very poorly and have been coming into their own a little bit more.
And they have, and it's a smart football team with gritty guys who play together well. They have fun on the football field, and they spread the wealth and they spread the love. But Top Season's lost 3 games in a row. They're kind of mirroring the Tide right now. It seems like they're star-crossed lovers or something. Ever since that early season close battle that they had, they've been on the same trajectory. So I think Top Season will also correct their wrongs and come out with a win this week.
Junkyard Dogs against No Name. Rob White going up against his former team.
Yep, and it's going to be passionate. It always is with Rob White and with the No Name squad and with the Junkyard squad. This is it for No Name, though, okay? No more lives, no more chances. This is a must-win. I'm going to pick you guys. I'm going to run with No Name for this one. I do think they'll make the playoffs, but they absolutely need to win this game.
Bad Case against Les Maloudes.
Yeah, Bad Case have kind of been like that whipping boy for a lot of teams this year. Teams have been dropping 40 points on them. Teams have been dropping more than 40. Maybe it's roster inconsistencies. But now they're playing against perhaps the best team in the division. I'm going to take Les Maloudes this week.
Flying Weasels against MVE.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, Flying Weasels are maybe a little bit matchup based, and I think MVE is not the right matchup for them. You have a quarterback who's confident, who stands in the pocket, who throws a hard and straight ball, and he just throws it no matter what. So I think he can pick apart this Flying Weasels zone defense, and I'll take MVE in this matchup.
Still teamless against Aztech Sasquatches, depending on which Aztech team shows up.
The Sam Squanches, which one are going to show up? The good Sam Squanches or the bad Sam Squanches? We don't know, right? But I'm still going to take the known quantity in this one, and I will stick with still teamless to come out victorious.
And the last one on the docket, Frosty Bronsons against Nobodies. I'm not going to ask you to pick your own team. I like what Frosty Bronsons have to offer here. The Nobodies are a solid team. They've had a great schedule thus far. I think, though, that the mobility of James and the experience and the resiliency will be enough for Frosty Bronsons to take it here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So that's it for us here. What have you learned in your time off and your time back? What have you missed about the division? What do you want to talk about to wrap it up?
There's nothing worse for killing your season stat line than missing a game. Good night All-Star game. Good night individual awards. At least I can finally be a team player.
Okay. So speaking of team players, Eagle and I will wish you off and wish you well. So thank you for listening to Calling the Audible for Division 4.
Bye.
Bye. And that's how we end it.